Hi, WFMers out there. I'm your host, Irina, and this is WFM Unfiltered, a podcast by Right WFM, the place where we share the truth about workforce management. So get comfortable and listen closely. Hello, everyone, and welcome to WFM Unfiltered. Today we'll be going to controversial Manchester because my guest, I don't know, we were about to do that recording a while ago. And I would like to think that he was scared of me, but sadly he wasn't. Let's see how this recording will go. So I would like to introduce you to Jimmy. Jimmy, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I was just talking to you just before we started about me having a weekend on my own with all of my children. So you caught me at a good time because I'm sleep deprived and I'm a little bit battle weary. So you might land a few punches on me today.
Mm. So the way that I heard it is you're even using your children as an excuse that I'm gonna beat you.
I tell you what, I'll use anybody as a human shield. It doesn't matter.
Fair, fair. But before we start kicking your butt, I'm sorry, talking about stuff. Can you please introduce yourself?
I can indeed. So I'm Jimmy Hosang. I'm the founder and CEO of Mojo CX. We're an artificial intelligence platform that specializes in making every contact center conversation valuable. And we do that in a few different ways. The first is around conversational guidance and next best action. So, what to say, how to say it. So, agent assist, but trying to put things into plain language. The second part is around monitoring those conversations. So, using speech and text analytics to make sure that your agents are keeping to the script or recommending the right things or being compliant. And then the final piece is closing that feedback loop when things haven't gone quite so well or when things have gone brilliant, to either give them a targeted coaching intervention or give them a digital pat on the back because they're doing a good job. So that sort of harmonic set of features and a bit of my background as well. So how did I get into contact centers? So I've been working in them for about 15 years now. I started off in credit risk, did some pricing, did some marketing, and then my very first job as a consultant programmer was in a capacity planning team in Leeds,
Mm.
and then I've been working in kind of contact centers ever since, and I've worked in capacity planning, resource planning, supply. I've done a little bit of real time. I've done customer insight pieces, and then I've worked in BPO, retail, and things like that. So hopefully, from a WFM perspective, I don't know everything about WFM, and it's as much of an art as a science. But hopefully, I'm going to be able to at least hold my own.
So we have a traitor.
Yeah, I've turned on myself. Turned on
Mm.
myself. Yeah.
Okay, so not only you're using your children as an excuse, you are a traitor, but now I know why you like AI so much because you own your own company doing AI.
Yeah, I thought I'd lead off with that, but I think as well, like I'm actually a little bit of a, uh, I'm a little bit of a naysayer when it comes to artificial intelligence and things like that as well. I think like a lot of people like sort of talk it up and talk it beyond its means. So to a certain aspect, I'm a little bit of I'm a little bit of a naysayer when it comes to it, but actually when it comes to things like WFM or CRM or just CCAS, I do think it's got applications that are kind of already pretty solid and as as good as a human at some of those things. But I'm sure we'll come on to that as we go through the
Right,
conversation.
let's get right into it. So, I have read, I believe that post was maybe a couple of months old already when you were approaching the topic as AI is going to replace WFM and basically maybe even agents in the future, and we will no longer need WFMers/planners, human beings. So take me away, like explain to me how this is gonna happen.
Okay, so first of all, let me just explain like my thought process around
Oh,
this. So for um, a long time, I've been pretty down about AI and what people class as AI and what people class as automation. And um, but there was a running joke within my company that we didn't have AI in our name. And the reason for it is because we were like, well, if we add AI onto our name, we'll just get more hits. Like it's just a marketing tool. So one day we changed our company to have .ai in the title, and the hits on the landing page and things like that, and our traffic like increased because of it. So we just believed that it was a bit of a marketing tool. That said, probably about 2 years ago, I was invited onto a live talk, the Contact Center Network with Gary Gormley, and we were talking. I was talking with a couple of guys, some that have kind of auto QA companies, others that do kind of voice AI, but from a more of a consulting point of view. And we were talking about the applications for artificial intelligence. And look, I said this. It wasn't WFM.
mm,
It was software, it was SaaS. It's even the stuff that I'm doing. So what I said was, why do you need? So why do you need Salesforce if you've got AI? Why do you need why do you need Verint if right, why do you need Verint WFM if you've got an AI? Why do you need a CCAS platform? Why do you need Genesis or Amazon Connect or NiceCX1 or whatever? Why do you need all of these things if you've got an AI? And people looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Like the other guys, including Gary, were like, "What are you on about?" But what I said was, um, and it's probably best explained through through the journey of CCAS. So, when back 100 odd years ago, when somebody wanted to make a phone call, they simply picked up a phone and it went through to an operator. And the operator said, like, when did you want to, who do you want to speak to? And I go, I want to speak to Irina Holat. So I'm going to argue with her about WFM. And they go, oh, Irina, right, I'll put you through. And they used to route it through. And then because phone calls became so popular, proliferation of phone calls, they couldn't employ enough operators to route the calls. So they needed to find a different way of doing it. So that's how we went to telephone networks. So hardwired telephone networks where through numbers you could route people through to different parts. So then there was a proliferation of hardwired networks. But then people wanted to reduce the cost of the networks. It was too costly to maintain. So then we needed to move it to fiber optic, and we needed to move it to digital. So was it 30 years ago, maybe slightly longer, but moving forward, we then moved to kind of voice over internet protocols, and it was all sort of digital kind of traffic, digitizing it, moving the mud and human labor engineers into data centers, and then they were building data centers and stuff. So your physical engineers became more of your digital engineers. Then that's kind of my first foray into kind of into voice. Was I used to work for Vodafone in a service center for a client with just engineers, BT engineers, Avaya engineers. It was just surrounded by service and implementation engineers. So that was kind of my first taste. And then CCAS came along. So CCAS came along because the cost of all of those engineers was so much that we needed to make it simple to route calls around. And therefore, because everything was then digitized, they started to move everything into the cloud. And that's where we are kind of today, which is the proliferation of CCAS. So everybody's now migrating for their on-prem solutions into cloud. Right. However, my belief is that with AI, the And sorry, let me just say one more thing. The idea of CCAS is you can just, through a web interface, plumb a contact center together through drag and drop with low code, with low requirements of expertise, and to get a functioning contact center with high availability. So my belief is that with AI, you no longer need that interface. I think it's like going back 120 or 120, 120 years to just being able to pick up the phone and going, I want to speak to Irina, and it just routes you. The only difference being is those operators are not humans, they're AIs, and they can do a billion things all at once. And so rather than humans like interacting with UX and UIs and having to plumb things together, I think it's almost slightly simpler. Whereas a human customer can just pick up the phone and go, I want to speak to brand A or brand B or brand C, and it will call them. And then the AI on the other end will just understand that the customer's contacted them, maybe even via an AI, and then just route it through to a person without anything in the way. There's not UX or UI necessarily in the way. It's just AI. Then to WFM. So if you then take that concept and then plug it into WFM, I've spent so much of my working life wrestling with WFM systems, with with capacity planning, forecasting, supply side, keeping your agents up to date. No one ever does uses the forecasts in the system. They're always taking it out and doing it in Excel and then plugging it back in to for the interval profiles. Everybody's doing the interval profiles out of the system, plugging it back in. Skills mappings. So all of the skills issues is all always different, and it's not quite how the system would use it. Back when everything was on prem, every time you wanted to redo your shift pattern, it uses Erlang to basically do a mathematical calculation. I've had situations where, because of the size of the business, because it was all on an actual physical piece of tin, it used to take so long to do the shift patterns that people just used to then take it out of the platform and do the shift patterns manually, and then load them back in. They were doing that weekly, and then to do for the real time team to do quality of service, because obviously you've had that absence and sickness in the morning, it used to take so long to get through. I think at one point I was working with teams that were planning for 6,000 agents, and it was just taking so long because it was on an old under-provisioned box. Anyway, and I go through all of this, and I'm like, that's just the software. So that's just the software. On top of that, you've then got all of the humans who are trying to have to fight with the software to make it work. And I just have a different theory. I just think that, what if your planning team just had an LLM, which you said to it, I want a forecast I want you to take this data from over here from a call, and I want to forecast, and then I want you to just put the data there into that, and then do that every day or every week or every month, and then tell me the variance. That's simple. And then I'm like, then from a resource team, I want you to take that. I want you to look at my budget spreadsheets, and then I want you to work out a budget, and then want to tell me my 0 to 12 weeks. And then, all of these different things all of the way. Why do I need, I'm going to use the brand, but why do I need Verint? Why do I need a WFM? Yeah.
We assist us here because you're going to get me in trouble and
But I'm just going, the natural step is, if I've got all of these digital AI assistants that replicate my best capacity planner, resource planner, real-time planners, HR coaches, and things like that. Number one, before I even get to the human part of it, which is how do I optimize the humans? But why do I need the WFM? Why do I need the UX? And that's where I got to. That's where I got into trouble with you. That's where I've got into trouble with lots of people around saying this thing.
I will say one thing. First of all, I'm going to give you a point because one of my biggest irritation is people not understanding the difference between automation and AI. And I feel like lately they are using them interchangeably. Like even old traditional WFM systems now are using we have AI because they can do some kind of calculations on the backend that are automating the process. That's not AI. Like, let's start here. So now that we got that covered, I feel like we are not exactly on the same page when it comes to what is workforce management, because you're referring to the tool itself. I'm referring to the team as such, to the whole cycle. Whether you're using Excel, paper, you're hanging your schedules on the wall, this is done by workforce management team, right? As for the tools, I do believe they should be enhanced by AI. Absolutely. The thing that currently bothers me with such bold statements is why do you need WFM tools? Is many different reasons. First of all, and the major one, legislation. There is no current legislation around AI when it comes to data privacy,
Yeah.
just for example. So go to some very strict regions. Let's use, I don't know, Germany, for example. I doubt that at the moment you can say, oh, I'm just plugging AI. It's going to read all of your information and provide you with some output and you'll be fine. They're going to be probably showing you a middle finger because we know that they have very strict regulations. Who can see that data? How can it be used for how long? And so on and so on. And I feel that when you say that AI is replacing WFM teams, a lot of people tend to get scared and anxious. And now, when we're bundling with a lot of layoffs and stuff, this is basically creating anxiety on the market that shouldn't be there.
Let's just split that into two a little bit though. Like, so there's the let's say the productivity gains or the productivity gains or the accuracy efficiency versus maybe the regulations and the ethics. But let's just do operational overhead. So yeah, so from the planning perspective, I'll give you my thoughts on this. So I'll probably cross over the regulations. My When we've done analysis before, my team. So first of all, my company, my team, we're not doing any WFM automation stuff at the moment. Um, I've got this. I have ideas around it, but we're focused mainly on just like answering calls and delivering the best customer experience. So I'll just caveat it with I'm not got deep thinking or deep knowledge around this type of stuff. However, I can apply it to something that we do, which is automatic quality assurance. The regulations around QA obviously is all calls. Yeah, all calls are recorded in the UK for quality and monitoring purposes, and we need to check things. Now, what we rubbed up against initially was when we did auto QA was how accurate are you marking the scorecard versus a human? But the challenge that we faced into was there's a perception that humans do things accurately, which we don't because we always have bad days. Some of us have had their wives go on holiday for a week and I've had to look after the kids. And then they have to like talk about stuff on the podcast or got to do like high executive function tasks. So when we did like a like for like study, especially especially on items that are subjective, like did the agent display empathy? Um, well, I'm not particularly great at spotting empathy. You might be like miles better. Somebody else might be miles better. It doesn't matter how much calibration sessions you have in your QA team. There's a huge gap. So what we uncovered was, which this is maybe slightly controversial again, is that your human QAs are only 60 to 70% accurate when you did a proper calibration. So if I do 100, so if then I auto QA 100% of the calls, but at 70% accuracy, I'm from an accuracy perspective, I'm at least as level as a human, but I'm getting across like more and more calls. So I'm just going to loop that back to the regulations in Germany in general. Like, I think that I think that I find Germany strange. I can't quite wrap my head around the concept of, first of all, your first of all, your customers being able to opt out of recordings and personal data. That's fine, but
Mhm.
the concept that your workers can say whether or not they're happy to be coached on something.
Mhm.
I mean, for me personally, I'm mixed race, but I grew up in UK. I grew up maybe in this capitalist like ecosystem, but like to say that a worker shouldn't have the performance monitoring, it's quite challenging for me to understand. And I'm having to, as my company goes into different regions, understand those cultures a lot better. That said, though, when it comes to WFM, I think that there's lots of benefits around to the workers for having artificial intelligence interacting with them. And that's because when I've done some studies around a human interacting with an AI and an employee interacting with an AI, for coaching, they actually prefer an AI coach to a human coach because it's not personal. So if your AI says you've been rubbish at your handling time for payment calls today, you're 30 seconds more than anybody else, then you go, okay, fine. Whereas if it's Simon who I've had a disagreement with, who's my team leader, who I've already who I'm already like a bit annoyed with, then I don't take the feedback as well as maybe with an AI. I think it's maybe the case for WFM, and not all of the WFM interactions, but some of the WFM interactions, because we have humans cranking handles all over. The operation has rigidity built into it because of humans. Humans having to take data out, put data in. We have to lock the plan down 12 weeks in advance because everybody wants to know the shift patterns, blah, 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 blah. Whereas I don't know if you're on 6 week locks or 12 week locks or shift locks and stuff like that. But with AI, if you wanted to change your shift, at the moment you might be scared to call in your resource planning team or speak to your team manager. Whereas what would a workforce look like if it was more dynamic and it was an AI who would just switch people around and could do it without having to someone to crank the handle. So I do think human in the loop is important, an important first step. But I do think that there's a lot of rigidity that's built into planning processes that could be taken away by
Mhm.
artificial intelligence, and it not caring about how hard the work is to redo the forecast or to move some shifts around. So that's a bit of my view as well.
Okay, cool. I'm partially on board with that because I think that there are still to this day a lot of stuff in our teams that are obsolete that we shouldn't be doing. We should be doing better, more efficient things that can be and should be automated, even like even if we're not talking about AI. However, for me, it should start and it should end with a planner. And I'm seeing any kind of tech as an enhancement of the skills of a planner, of an agent, of a quality monitor person or whatever, not as a replacement. And I'm having a huge issue right now because you were saying, okay, AI is going to remove bias. Basically, that's cool. That's great. What if I, as an agent, say, I understand, but whatever happened, I need to bypass you and speak to my manager or to the planner because whatever, my child fell and I cannot do that shift. And
Yeah,
they are saying, "Oh no, oops, I'm so sorry. Just let your kid cry, let it go on its own in the hospital, and you're needed here."
where I think my difference is that I think the best planners will become hyper valuable. I'm just saying that all of the lower level planners and the people who are cranking the handle, those are the people who I think are most at risk, because if you enable your best planner to have almost unlimited like hands
Yeah.
to do things with, then they can optimize their workflows and become like super planners who can do loads of different stuff. I worked with a guy. I might give him a name check. In fact, I'm going to give him a name check. His name's Paul Pritchard, and Paul Pritchard taught me planning. And he was like Mr. Miyagi. He Mr. Miyagi me. He was a capacity and resource planner. I was Daniel San. He was Mr. Miyagi, and I thought I was like the best. I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread, and he just took me down a peg or two constantly. I think this was maybe 2010, maybe it is maybe 15.
Take a quick note that Mr. Miyagi was very high on empathy and stuff, so I guess your teacher skipped this part.
Yeah, no, he totally skipped it. Totally skipped it. But every time I said, "Oh, look, like I've done this forecast," no, that doesn't matter. Every time I did like an HT prediction, no, that doesn't matter. So he really mixed me in. But he was like super high level. He could build anything in Excel and stuff like that. And it wasn't particularly empathetic, but he taught me he taught me things that I know, and like there was other people who taught me like a lot of the softer side. But that said, but if you gave him unlimited capacity to build forecasts, to push data to and from systems, because he had a technical problem, which was he did everything in Excel, but then the Excels had to then be pushed into whatever WFM system it was. Then we had forecasting models in a different system, pricing in a different system. But if you gave him unlimited capability as a one person, then he would be able to auto, and maybe through an interface where he didn't have to code, he could just go, "These are the specific things I want you to do," and I know specifically. We were sat on a team of maybe 16 planners, and maybe Paul could have done all of it. Maybe he did 15 years ago, but he can definitely do more of it today. So I think but I do agree. I agree to a certain extent. I just think your best guys are going to be more productive. And
Oh, we are on the same page on this one.
yeah,
What you're referring to and what I'm referring to is administrators that are doing copy paste, manual swapping of shifts and stuff that even with traditional WFM systems, you can do even right now. And that's
yeah,
why I'm saying, like, forget about AI. A lot of stuff currently on the market should be more efficient. However, what I'm slightly annoyed with is minimizing planners to just the technical or number aspect, because for me, a planner should be much more engaged in the conversations with the different stakeholders, knowing where the business is going, getting that knowledge, thinking how can we improve the processes, getting other stuff on board, give any sort of suggestions that can help the business,
yeah.
right? Which is not necessarily AI driven part or tech driven or numbers driven part. So this is where I'm having very big reservation on. I see that you're mostly coming from numbers perspective, but that's not all about what planning team are doing.
It's not, but I, but let me. But it is. So it is.
No,
No.
no,
It, hear me out a second. I think the political way that planning has to nudge its way through the entire process is one thing. But I've always my planning from a planning perspective, like when I started planning, it was part of finance. So I worked in finance planning teams. It was operational planning, capacity, resource, but it sat within the finance division. So maybe I do have like a different outlook on it versus like the operations point of view. But I think a lot of the softer side of things, the interface into the first of all, I think the hard numbers are I have a budget that I have to hit, and I have a number of people that I need on the phone to hit a quality service in a day is the hard numbers. I think that the challenge for planners and the guys who I know who are the best are very, very good from a political point of view and a stakeholder management point of view. But I think that's the nature of, I think that's not the nature, it's a byproduct about how we've set up businesses a little bit and the complexity of the businesses, and especially working in the UK, like the bureaucracy that's involved in some of it. Whereas I think with the use of AI and automations and AI, I'm using them slightly interchangeably as well, because I think the automations sit behind the AI for me. What I'm saying is, I can envisage a world where you go into a planning session. Um, you go into a planning session, just you, Irina, as
Mhm.
as like a high level, super experienced like workforce management specialist, and within that session, you as a planner can hook up to a SharePoint site with the latest 9+3 or 4+8 budget kind of stuff. You can hook into any information that the CFO or the finance guys have. You can be recording the conversation live, and you can be speaking to the HR business partners about any feedback that's been getting from the operations and things like that, and any issues and stuff like that. And then you can take all of that information, and you can be asking the LLM questions and to be creating scenarios for you in the room, in the moment. You're not having to take it away. You're not having to come back. You're actually like on the fly, being able to reply with information and and conduct analysis. And that's why I've said this to people, and people look at me like I've grown a second head. This is why people thought I was crazy 2 years ago. But I see that's what people are doing now. People are doing it for testing, for interviews, for I think I saw like them using like this type of technology for, I think it was like UN, in the UN, like for disasters and stuff like that, like how you can take all of the data and work on it on the fly. And so I still think there is that human element. I just think that at the moment you've got these high level people, and then you've got high level people, you've got people who are moving into that space, but then you've got a lot of cranking of the handle, trying to get data into systems. And imagine, Irina, imagine if you didn't have the problem of getting it into a system. Imagine if you could just say, I want to see my forecast. That's my forecast. I'm comfortable with it. I've looked at the accuracy. I'm comfortable. Now just save it down. I don't need to push it into, this software or this software. It's done. It's there. It exists within a data layer. Then I can say to my resource planner, go and just reading that into the AI LLM, and now go and give me what is my best kind of interval for Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and things like that. That's fine. Do the accuracy, forward it to me. Am I happy with it? Yes. Now save it down. So you remove some of the friction points that we've got interacting with interfaces as well.
I agree with you. I absolutely 100%. I'm hoping we get to this stage, but this is exactly my position. I need to tell the AI what I need, right?
Yeah.
You need that human element of a planner, of a whatever function it is, to navigate that AI, what it wanted to produce. And it's not much different with any kind of tech. You need a human element behind it to be the driver, right? And
Yes.
this when you're saying replacement, because for me, I'm looking at it from the perspective of people in the team, right? I need a human. This is the same as for example, once upon a time when people were calculating on the calculator how much you have to pay them. Now everything is automated. They just scan it and
Yeah.
whoop. Yeah, exactly. This is what we're going to replace with people copy pasting shifts. I agree. However, when it comes to just planning people and day-to-day operations, stuff changes. People come, ask stuff. Constantly something is in the way. There needs to be a decision maker for all the changes. And AI can advise you. What if the people are not happy with this decision? It needs to be escalated to someone who is a human decision maker. And that's the issue when, for me, somebody says, well, we no longer need WFM in general. Okay, we don't need team leads, we don't need agents, we don't need humans at all. So what do we do then?
Yeah. So I think the concept of WFM will remain even if there's no human agents, because
Okay.
because workforce management will still be required for managing compute, because you'll say, in a world where a human being does 8 hours a day, I don't know, like 5 to 6 hours talk time, however many hours, what's it, like maybe 80 hours a month or something of talking to customers. That 80 hours will be replaced, even in a full AI world, will be replaced with 80 hours of compute time. It's 80 hours of an AI, like transcribing, like doing
Mhm.
things and stuff like that. On top of that, you will still need workforce management. You'll still need resource management. It's managing how much demand do I need at certain bits and optimizing it. So I think, maybe I'm being slightly controversial when I'm going WFM is dead or CRM is dead, but how we view the construct of it and the concept of it is very, very different. I was really interested when I first started thinking, working in capacity planning, like my the software that I used, which isn't used at all. A
Please
lot.
don't trash any more companies on
No,
the
no, no, no,
call.
no. No, but it's but the concept, the studies that I was reading was not about call centers. It was about medical emergency rooms and things like that, and it was showing simulation models of people queuing to go around, like to check in, and then to go to A&E, and then to get a scan and all these types of things. So the concept of those types of things I've never thought of before, and I think it's the paradigm of what you're managing and who you're managing is different. So then, if the human agents are going to potentially reduce down, which I don't think it necessarily will as quickly as some people think. What I think will happen is, I think there'll be more voice, but it's just done by AI, because I think that once you remove all of the barriers to for a customer to have a conversation with you, and in fact you make it even easier for a customer to have a conversation, because a customer can get AIs to call you, and I think the proliferation of conversations will increase dramatically, because you're just going to have like constant conversations between humans, AIs and AIs and humans, like all over the place. So I don't necessarily think that there's going to be this huge pattern change, but for workforce management or for resource management, let's call them teams, to get across that, there will have to be efficiencies gained, because you're going to have to, because the cost will not be able to go linearly with the amount of conversations. And then finally, yeah, I think you are right. I'm maybe being a little bit controversial, but I don't believe that there's going to be zero workforce management. I just believe that the actual quality assurance, auto quality assurance through speech analytics and things, has reduced the size of QA teams, and now you've got your most attuned people. You don't need to go wide, because you've got to hit your numbers. You can go specialized and you can get the best person in. I personally believe that for almost every single workforce management discipline, you could have less staff but higher paid, more specialists, and who know what questions to ask and how to tune the machines.
Okay, you're not that bad, Jimmy. I think we're
That's what people say once they get to know me. When it's before they get to know me, then they don't like me. and then if
not
you and then if you know me too well, then you start to hate me again. So then you just keep it
bad.
up.
It was up on time then. Yeah, I absolutely fully agree. And one of the things that personally gets to me is we know that traditionally contact centers are understaffed. However, we're trying to think of ways to basically make them correctly staffed with the people we have and remove the stupid things, the repetitive things that we're doing, and make them do better things and potentially get even higher pay for your specialists. But then seems to be, I think it's all about phrasing and marketing AI. And at the moment, we have a lot of AI companies, vendors that are coming with our bullshit solution is going to help you with this and with this and with this. Think,
On that point, though, I think the mix of stuff that you have to do or can do because of AI is important. I see a world where you have how you can blend full-time, part-time gig economy staff all into the same planning model. But at the
Mhm.
moment, because it's complex to do all of those different things, maybe like globally running like global operations, it's quite challenging to blend all of that together. But if you've got AI supporting planners and supporting WFM teams to mix all of that together, that's what I believe like will be the future. It'll be AI agents with gig economy agents, with
Mhm.
full time agents, with part time, all blended together. That's what I believe will be the best. But if you think about how people think at the moment, it's like it's all shit or all sugar. It's all right. So I'm gonna have all humans, and then I'm gonna quickly try and get everything to automation, self-serve. Everybody hates self-serve. Everybody hates chatbots. Everybody hates self-serve. But the human mind of corporations can only think of like all shit or all sugar. Like everybody does it for themselves, or we have like a white glove service where you've got humans. But the actual future is a blend. But then that blend, how hard is it to get a CCAS platform that helps you do with that blend? It's bloody impossible. So that's why do you need a CCAS when you need like the inherent flexibility? You can't be reconfiguring stuff all of the time, right? Number two, like why do you need a CRM when if you've got gig economy people? You don't have enough time to train them up on CRMs and things. So why do you need a CRM? Why can't you just capture all of the information and AI just plug it all in and then send off whatever needs to be sent off? Like, why do you need to train people on systems and things like that? So all of these things make a planner's life harder.
Mhm.
Whereas, but AI can make it easier, but to the point where actually then it does start to like eat into the resource requirement for WFM teams because, like I said, your best people can then configure things in that environment in a much more dynamic manner. And what the difference is, they ask the right questions.
Mhm. I think you're converting back to WFM. I see the passion coming back to the way that you're speaking about workforce management. But maybe just end on a note that I feel like many people are using workforce management teams only for contact centers, where in fact it's the same for retail, hospitality, for hospitals, airports, whatever have you. Every single person that is scheduled there to check your passport or to welcome you on the reception of the hospital is a person with a shift that a planner has to create for. And there it might be even more difficult because you don't necessarily have the traffic coming from queues that you can see these numbers. And you're basically working based on gut feeling in a lot of times. So, yes, so you're saying that workforce management as a role is not that. It's going to become even more important. So, I'm happy with that. So, I would like to hear any last words of advice or controversial opinion, what have you. How are we ending this episode?
I think from my view, I think it's about the best planners having the best available information at the fingertips at any given point in time, and to be able uh, to dynamically change operations in a very very hyper skilled environment. And I think to do that, you need the AI and you need the high functioning WFM professionals to make that work. And look, I am super passionate. I'm not passionate about software. I think
Mm.
the software side of it will slowly die. But what I am passionate about is humans interacting with each other and AIs in a way that benefits everybody. And I think that this more dynamic approach with WFM, with CCAS, with CRMs and things like that will enable us to interact with brands and each other at our own leisure and not be constrained by traditional kind of resource planning models.
Okay, I take that. One last words and we're wrapping up. Where can my fellow planners find you to savage you?
So if you really, really want to take me to task, you can go onto LinkedIn, Jimmy Hosang on LinkedIn, or it's Jimmy is Analytics, which is my handle on there. You could also reach out to the Mojo CX company page and contact me via there. It may be filtered by some of my sales and marketing team for any swear words.
No more trashing Jimmy. No more. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for this conversation. It was better than I expected, but mostly because of the way that you spoke about workforce management. So thank you for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Irina Mateva, founder of Right WFM, where we believe that every business and its people are unique and deserve the right solution to their challenges. If you need support with workforce management, we're just a message away. Get in touch at Irina at rightwfm.com or info at rightwfm.com. If you like the content and would like to support the show, please subscribe to WFM Unfiltered on your favorite podcast platform, leave a review, and follow me on LinkedIn. You can also show some love to our great sponsors. For more information about them, check out the episode notes. This is your place for real WFM, so to suggest guests or topics, get in touch at Irina at rightwfm.com. See ya! Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Irina Mateva, founder of Right WFM, where we believe that every business and its people are unique and deserve the right solution to their challenges. If you need support with workforce management, we're just a message away. Get in touch at Irina at rightwfm.com or info at rightwfm.com. If you like the content and would like to support the show, please subscribe to WFM Unfiltered on your favorite podcast platform, leave a review, and follow me on LinkedIn. You can also show some love to our great sponsors. For more information about them, check out the episode notes. This is your place for real WFM, so to suggest guests or topics, get in touch at Irina at rightwfm.com. See ya!